Without an official schedule, without media cameras, and without heavy security, Jungkook's sudden and secret return to South Korea alone immediately sparked deep emotional tension when Jimin waited for him inside a dark-tinted car at Incheon International Airport, revealing the mental burden, the tears behind his crumbling emotional defenses, and the genuine brotherhood hidden beneath the dazzling global spotlight of BTS that the public had never truly seen. Welcome to Jimin Gallery, the home for Park Jimin fans who want to discover all the latest news, interesting facts, and stories behind the world's spotlight on Jimin. The usually bustling atmosphere of Incheon International Airport was briefly swallowed by an unusual silence as an international flight touched down on the runway. With no official arrival schedule released by the agency, the return of global superstars always carried an air of mystery. On that day, no one expected that one of BTS's members would quietly walk out of the arrival gate alone, without the usual overwhelming media coverage. Jungkook's steady yet noticeably exhausted footsteps echoed through the airport corridor. Dressed entirely in black with the hood of his hoodie pulled low over his face, he did his best to avoid the eyes of those around him. His unexpected return to Korea had not been announced in advance, leaving the few fans and reporters who happened to be at the airport completely stunned. There were no press cameras waiting for him at the main arrival entrance as there usually were, allowing Jungkook to move quickly toward the VIP pickup area. Although he tried to appear composed, the expression on the young singer's face revealed the weight of an overwhelming emotional burden. The long journey from overseas was clearly not the only thing draining his energy. It was the silent pressure he had carried alone for far too long. Meanwhile, far from the crowded arrival terminal, a black luxury vehicle with heavily tinted windows sat parked in a private pickup zone, its engine still running. Inside the car, someone remained seated, staring intently toward the terminal's automatic doors. It was Jimin, who had quietly arrived without a large security entourage to ensure his friend's return would remain free from unnecessary public attention. Jimin wore a thick gray jacket and a black face mask that concealed most of his features, yet nothing could hide the deep concern reflected in his eyes. His fingers tapped restlessly against the steering wheel, revealing just how important this meeting was to him. Their relationship had always been under public scrutiny, but behind the flashing cameras existed a far more complicated personal bond than anyone outside could truly understand. The moment the automatic glass doors slid open and Jungkook's silhouette appeared in the distance, Jimin instinctively held his breath. Through the dark-tinted window, he watched Jungkook walk with his head slightly lowered, carrying an unmistakable aura of loneliness. The sight pierced Jimin's heart, reminding him of the countless difficult moments they had endured together, and sometimes apart, while facing the overwhelming weight of global fame. Jungkook froze for a brief moment when he recognized the familiar vehicle parked in such an unexpected location. Without hesitation, he quickened his pace as soon as he recognized the license plate, as though he had finally found a safe harbor after drifting through a relentless storm. Before his hand could even reach the door handle, the passenger door swung open from the inside, revealing Jimin waiting for him with an expression that said more than words ever could. Not a single word was exchanged during the first few moments. Jungkook quietly climbed into the vehicle and shut the door firmly behind him. Instantly, the cabin became completely silent, isolated from a noisy world outside. Inside that confined space, the emotional tension that had traveled through countless long-distance phone calls finally collided face-to-face. Jimin carefully studied his closest friend, searching every trace of exhaustion on Jungkook's face. "You didn't tell me your flight had been moved up," Jimin finally said, breaking the silence with a voice that sounded hoarse yet filled with relief. Jungkook lowered his head, removed his hood, and released a long, weary sigh. "I didn't want to make a scene, Hyung. I just wanted to come home and put an end to all this confusion," he replied in little more than a whisper. Those simple words unleashed weeks of unspoken tension that had silently built between them. Thousands of miles and countless time zones had failed to suppress the emotions neither of them had ever fully expressed. Throughout their individual solo promotions, rumors and endless speculation about their relationship had spread across social media, causing enormous concern among devoted fans. Yet the reality inside that vehicle that night was far removed from the shallow narratives created by online speculation. Sitting there were not two celebrities carefully protecting their public image, but two young men who depended on one another while carrying the immense pressure of life in the global entertainment industry. Jimin gently placed a hand on Jungkook's shoulder, giving it a reassuring squeeze that spoke of unwavering support. "You've never had to face any of this alone, Jungkook. We promised we'd get through everything together, no matter what it cost," Jimin said with calm determination. Hearing those words, The emotional walls Jungkook had fought so hard to maintain finally collapsed. Tears he had hidden beneath the blinding lights of international stages slowly gathered in his eyes. That night was far more than a simple reunion between two members of the same group. It became the moment when the flawless mask of a global superstar finally slipped away in front of the person he trusted most. The instant Jimin noticed the change in Jungkook's expression, he leaned forward and wrapped him in a tight embrace. The hug unfolded in complete silence, yet it carried a depth of meaning that thousands of song lyrics or countless media interviews could never fully express. Within that warm embrace, every burden, every misunderstanding, and every ounce of exhaustion accumulated through relentless. That intense moment seemed to change everything, washing away the doubts that had quietly crept into each of their hearts during their time apart. They realized that no matter how successful their individual careers had become on the international stage, the strongest foundation they possessed would always be the bond they had built together since their trainee days. The car slowly pulled away from the airport, merging into the steady flow of late-night traffic beneath the cool skies of Seoul. Silence settled over the back seat once again, but this time it was no longer filled with anxiety. Instead, it carried the quiet comfort that only genuine honesty could bring. Jungkook gently rested his head against Jimin's shoulder and closed his eyes, feeling completely safe for the first time in what seemed like forever. The truth behind their unexpected reunion had nothing to do with the excitement of a secret arrival or the countless fan theories circulating across the internet. It was the story of a genuine brotherhood that had endured despite the relentless pressures of one of the world's most demanding entertainment industries. It was proof that behind the dazzling stage lights and millions of devoted fans, they were still ordinary human beings searching for a place that truly felt like home. That night's journey marked the beginning of a new chapter for both of them, where emotions that had remained buried for so long finally found clarity. With Jungkook's return to Korea and Jimin's unconditional welcome, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead by standing firmly at each other's side. Their private reunion became a quiet reminder that true friendship is never diminished by distance, time, or the overwhelming weight of global fame. As the car finally entered the neighborhood where they lived, the first light of dawn began to emerge over Seoul's eastern horizon. The morning sun carried with it a renewed sense of hope, illuminating the path before them as they once again moved forward together in perfect step. That secret airport reunion had changed everything, reaffirming a bond that no force in the world could ever truly break. The rich aroma of freshly brewed Americano coffee rising from a paper cup in the center console blended with the gentle rhythm of raindrops beginning to tap against the car windows. The quiet corner of Seoul suddenly felt remarkably intimate, creating the perfect refuge from the relentless noise of the outside world. Inside the dimly lit cabin, Jungkook's thoughts drifted back more than a decade to the days when they were simply two unfamiliar teenagers practicing late into the night inside a cramped underground rehearsal room, chasing enormous dreams with little more than determination and nearly empty pockets. The contrast between those difficult years and the grandeur of the global stages they now commanded felt almost surreal to Jungkook. Throughout months of solo promotions across the world, an invisible emotional struggle had slowly consumed him. The immense expectations of millions of eyes constantly demanding perfection had left him feeling isolated, as though he were balancing on a thin rope suspended above an endless abyss without a safety net. Alone in luxurious yet unfamiliar hotel rooms overseas, Jungkook often found himself longing for the simple things that fame could never buy. The comfort of home, carefree laughter, and the presence of someone who truly knew him beyond the image of a global pop superstar. The exhaustion weighing on his shoulders was no longer just physical fatigue from endless flights and jet lag, but emotional weariness from constantly having to appear strong before an international audience hungry for perfection. Sensing the emotional storm unfolding within his closest friend, Jimin quietly reached for the warm cup of coffee and placed it gently into Jungkook's hand. Without an official schedule, without media cameras, and without heavy security, Jungkook's sudden and secret return to South Korea alone immediately sparked deep emotional tension when Jimin waited for him inside a dark-tinted car at Incheon International Airport, revealing the mental burden, the tears behind his crumbling emotional defenses, and the genuine brotherhood hidden beneath the dazzling global spotlight of BTS that the public had never truly seen. Welcome to Jimin Gallery, the home for Park Jimin fans who want to discover all the latest news, interesting facts, and stories behind the world's spotlight on Jimin. The usually bustling atmosphere of Incheon International Airport was briefly swallowed by an unusual silence as an international flight touched down on the runway. With no official arrival schedule released by the agency, The return of global superstars always carried an air of mystery. On that day, no one expected that one of BTS's members would quietly walk out of the arrival gate alone, without the usual